A black kid loitering outside a convenience store, probably waiting for his crew to rob the place. That's what Lieutenant Rick Monroe saw, or maybe that's just what he wanted to see, you know what I mean. He snarled, slammed the boy's head onto the hood, right there in front of a packed parking lot, and the teenager, handcuffed and terrified, learned that standing still in black skin is all it takes. That's the part nobody warns you about growing up, the way the world can flip in a heartbeat, the way a routine day can end up a headline, or worse, a memory you can't scrub out. But here's the twist Monroe never saw coming. This wasn't just any kid. This was Jalen Barnes, son of the FBI director, a prodigy in criminal profiling, the kind of kid who gets invited to brief the White House, the kind of kid who's learned since age 5 how to read a room, especially when the room wants him gone. And when his mother stepped out of that Storino badge, no gun, just a presence that made the airlock UPU could feel the ground tilt, like maybe, just this once, the truth was about to land harder than the lies. Jalen stood, back to the gas station wall, lemon water in hand, label half peeled, sweat clinging to his skin and the air thick enough to taste. Nothing moved, no music, just that hollow tick of summer and the sense that something ugly was winding up just out of sight. Then the cruiser turned in, tires hissing, siren chirping, twice not a warning, more like a dare. Monroe stepped out, sunglasses reflecting sky and suspicion, badge shining like a threat, and asked flat, "What you doing here?" Not loud, not necessary. His voice was permission enough. Jalen tried to explain, "Just waiting for my mom," but the air was already guilty, already too thin for explanations. You ever been somewhere you knew you shouldn't leave, but knew you couldn't move? That's where Jalen was. When Monroe asked for ID, Jalen told the truth. 16, no license, and that only made it worse. The radio crackled, backup slid out of the cruiser, boots scraping pavement, and the next thing he knew, Monroe's breath was in his face, cologne and gun oil, and the smell of authority turned rotten. "Hands on the hood," Monroe said, and it wasn't a suggestion. Jalen obeyed, slow, careful, fingertips burning, chest tight with the effort not to flinch. He'd learned long ago that panic gets you nowhere but hurt. They cuffed him too tight, always too tight, and Monroe's partner muttered just loud enough, "This one probably doesn't even have a father." Monroe laughed. Jalen didn't answer. He just closed his eyes and tried to become invisible. But you can't disappear when every pair of eyes in the lot is pretending not to see. A woman across the street, gray hair, floral bag, called out, "He's just a kid." But the partner waved her off, told her to move along, and the crowd fell silent again, letting the story settle in like sediment. Another black boy, another afternoon, another lesson in who belongs. He sat in the cruiser, wrists burning, mind loud with old echoes. How many times had he been here before? Different night, different reason, always the same script. Matched the description, wore a hoodie, rode his bike after dark didn't matter. If you're black, you learn early that being good isn't good enough, that you don't get to decide when you're safe. That's not paranoia, that's procedure. Monroe drove, radio up just enough to cover the silence. Partner riding shotgun with nothing to say, and Jalen watched the city slide past, familiar corners gone blank. He remembered his mom on the phone late at night, sharp and quiet, the way her voice clipped off when she said the name Monroe. He knew something had gone wrong long before he ended up in that back seat, but now he felt it. Right there in the bones, the system wasn't broken. It was built this way. And then the phone footage hit the air. Bystanders had filmed the whole thing, uploaded it before Monroe even finished booking him, and it hit his mom's inbox while she sat in a briefing room downtown, the weight of the world stacked around her like a fortress. Eleanor Barnes didn't make a scene. She stood, removed her mic, and walked out. No apology, no drama. Just a calculation, Simeone's about to learn what happens when you put your hands on the wrong kid. She arrived at the precinct like a verdict. Coat sharp, heels sharper, badge flashing not just authority but intent. She cut through the noise, through the officers, through Monroe's smugness, and when she saw her son, she said, "Take your hands off my son." Not a shout, just a current, a power that didn't need volume. The world bent a little. Monroe froze, then tried to talk protocol, but Eleanor Barnes had heard it all before. "You know who I am," she said, and he did. Everyone did. The system had protected Monroe, once protected a lot of Monroes. Truth be told, but this time, the shield cracked. The crowd, once passive, now started whispering phones out, names murmured the moment turning in real time. Monroe tried to bluff, talk about jurisdiction, but Eleanor didn't move, didn't raise her voice. Walk away before I dismantle this parking lot one badge at a time. And she meant it. The younger officer opened the car, Jalen stepped out, and Eleanor unlocked his cuffs, herself a mother's hands, doing what a dozen policies wouldn't. Jalen didn't run to her. He didn't cry. He stood beside her, shoulder to shoulder, and the world watched as the system flipped sides in a heartbeat. Monroe's power evaporated Watt's authority when nobody listens, when the crowd isn't afraid anymore. Eleanor didn't press charges, didn't threaten. She let the truth work. She let Monroe see what it's like to lose the narrative. The video went viral, of course. 30 million views by nightfall. The story exploded, not just the handcuffing, not just the injustice, but the way the tide had turned, the way the crowd chose a side. Jalen became a hashtag, a label, the privileged son of justice. The comments cut deep. If he'd been anybody else, he'd still be in cuffs. Justice has a last name now, they joked. But what they didn't know, what they always miss, is how many times Jalen had been that kid. How many times Eleanor had fought battles the world never saw. Monroe tried to defend himself, suited up for the cameras, lied about not knowing the boy's name, about following procedure. But then the past caught up. A leak-old audio, casual racism in the locker room, jokes about keeping black boys down. Public sentiment flipped. Even Monroe's allies started backing away, and the investigation rolled forward, not because someone was brave, but because someone powerful got angry the right way. Eleanor didn't make speeches. She pushed files, cross-referenced reports, demanded accountability. Monroe's access was revoked. His badge stopped opening doors. His name became a warning, not a credential. The silence around him was cold, not angry, just done. And Jalen, for once, wasn't just a target. He was called to testify, not as a victim, but as a witness to a system's reckoning. If justice needs someone's title to function, he said, it's not justice. It's favoritism. There was no applause, just a silence too heavy to ignore. And Eleanor, she kept working. New policies, new oversight, a campaign, not a threat, designed to train officers, to protect kids who looked like Jalen, to make sure nobody else needed a federal title to survive a routine stop. She refused awards, headlines, tributes. She let her actions stand alone, sharp and undeniable. Monroe faded, erased by indifference, by memory, by the refusal of the world to let his legacy outlive his failure. The system shifted, not with fanfare, but with paperwork, retraining, new language. Nothing flashy, just a new way of moving forward, one where power was finally made to listen, not because it wanted to, but because it had to. And Jalen stood on stage at the unveiling of the campaign. No suit, no teleprompter, just his own steady voice. I used to shrink myself to survive, he said. Now I help guard the perimeter. The applause came slow, hesitant, like people needed time to believe that change could stick. But it did. It started to anyway. And as Eleanor walked past the wall of directors at the Bureau, her portrait missing, the air shifted, not out of honor, but necessity. Because legacy, in the end, isn't a plaque or a speech. It's the echo that refuses to be silenced, the change that happens when someone who never wanted the spotlight finally gets out of its way and lets the work speak for itself. So, which state do you live in, the one where justice is served, or the one where skin color writes the report? If you saw this with your own eyes, would you stand up for the truth, or would you wait for someone else to do it? Share your thoughts, because the story isn't finished until you decide which part you play.
Xin chào các bạn, mình là Trinh, mình phụ trách viết content. Trên đây là những công việc của mình, là mình lên.
Mas vamos supor, você falou negócio sério. Ele esconde. Next one? Alright. Thank you, man. Hey, if you guys have any trouble, Let somebody know, please.
After the tree to hold on to.
Yeah, use the fence. Use the fence.